In this video, I'm going to be showing you how you can edit documentary style videos like Moon, and specifically how you can create this intro from one of his YouTube videos in Adobe After Effects. Also, if you are a beginner or intermediate video editor looking to level up and edit like a professional as soon as possible, then I would highly recommend that you check out my video editing product Skillcut through the top link in the description below. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new composition. I'm going to name mine Moon Tutorial. I'm then going to import the assets which I'm going to be using today. You can find a link to them in the description below. I'm then going to start off by creating the background. So I'm going to create a new solid and I'm going to search up in the effects and presets gradient ramp and I'll add this onto the solid. I'll then play around with the position. So and then this first color is like just below underneath on the left side and this other color is at the top right hand corner, but nearer to the middle. I'm going to change this first color, so and then the color on the right, so and then it's this dark shade of pink. Then this second color is going to be a slightly darker version of orange. And I'm just trying to replicate the original like orangey pink background which was in the original video. I'm also just going to play around with the position of the actual points a bit. And this is what I've got now. I'm then going to create a new adjustment layer. And then I'm going to search up in the effects and presets grid, and I'm going to apply the grid effect onto this adjustment layer. I'm going to change the blending mode to the second normal, so now you can see it through here. I'm going to change it to width, height, and sliders, and now we'll be able to see all of the grid, and we'll be able to adjust the position to make the grid bigger or smaller. I'll make the width 100 and the height 100, so then they're all squares. And actually I'll change it to 150 and 150. And now the squares are the same size as they were in the original video. But I'll also change the border to 2.5 actually. The grid and background will never look the exact same as the original videos, especially the gradient. It's very hard to get colors the same because you can have pretty much an infinite amount of color combinations. The goal of this video isn't to make it the exact same. The goal is to show you guys how to actually edit, not how to do like the specific tiny little details that don't really mean anything in the end anyway. But I'm actually just going to adjust the grid a bit just to make it a bit closer to the original video. So I'll just move this point to the middle. And this is a bit closer to the original video. I'm then going to now import all of my pictures, which is, there are 4 pictures in the this part of the like video. There's 4 pictures. There's one for like the social media one. There's one for like the data one, and there's 2 others as well. And I'm going to add these. Basically, the plan is to create the actual like put all the layers together, and then basically move the like the scale, so and then it actually does what it did in the original video after. So if you look at the original video, you'll see that it scales in, then each like shape in each picture comes in, then it shows the Instagram logo, then it shows the other 2 pictures, and then it does the rest of the video. And what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to do that in the reverse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the pictures and like the Instagram logo and everything, and then I'll animate it after, and this will make it a lot easier. So I'm going to start off by just adding these pictures into the timeline. So I'm going to add this like coding one. It's not the same ones that he uses, but it's going to like represent the same thing. So this one's going to go in the bottom left. Then I've got this one, which is the other one, which is going to be the other social media one. And I'm going to make this one the same size as the other one. They just all need to be the same size or it'll look weird. And then I'll put this one in the bottom right. But I'm actually just going to adjust the size of this ever so slightly. I'll make it just a tiny bit bigger because in the original video it was bigger. So I'll make sure that they are both the same size and are a bit bigger. And then I'll put them back in the original positions that they were in. When I'm happy with it, I'm then going to search up black and white. And I'm going to add this black and white effect onto both the pictures because it was black and white in the original video. But I'm then going to search up drop shadow and I'm going to add a drop shadow onto both of these as well. So I will increase the distance to around 340 and the softness to around 670. And I'll make the direction positive 220 and the opacity 90%. Feel free to copy these settings if you want. And then I'm going to copy this and I'm going to add this same effect, like this same drop shadow effect onto the second picture. So they're now the same. Now I'm happy with that. I'm now going to import the Instagram logo and I'm just going to scale it down and center it in the middle like it was in the original video. And actually, I'm just going to make these pictures a bit smaller because there's not much of a gap between the pictures and the Instagram logo. And I'm going to copy the drop shadow effects from these pictures and I'm going to apply it onto the Instagram logo, but I'm just going to adjust the distance and softness a bit. So and then it's like the softness is nowhere near as much, and the distance is nowhere near as much as well. I'm then going to create a new solid, and I'll position this at the top. I'm going to type up in the effects and presets fill, and I'm going to add this onto the black solid. I'm going to change the color to a gray color, and I'm going to make the opacity around 5%. And what this is going to do is, I've noticed in the original video, there was a very slight like gray effect on everything. It was very, very subtle, but basically they may have just decreased the brightness a bit. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a like almost overlay onto this. So I may adjust this later because everything just looks a bit too bright, but I'll adjust that later. But yeah, this overlay will do for now. And as you can see, this is the before and after of that. And now I'm actually going to create that like, I guess, no entry blue sign you could see on the bottom two pictures. So I'm just going to keep pressing Q on the shape tool till I get the ellipsis. I'll hold shift to create a perfect circle. As you can see, there's already the right color applied onto it, but this is the color I'm going to use, but I'm going to also scale it down and center it in the middle of the left picture. I'm then going to get the pen tool, and I'm going to create a line like so, just to create that like kind of no entrance sign, and make sure the line is the same stroke and the same color. And now I'm happy with that. I'm going to add a glitch like overlay over this sign, I guess. And because if you look at the original video, there was a glitching effect to this like no entry sign. And the way I'm going to do that is I've got a glitch overlay from YouTube. You can find the link to that in the description below. And I'm just going to scale it down, and I'm going to position it so and then it's over the actual shape. I'm going to find the point where the actual glitch starts and it's actually like properly in color, not just like the start of it where there's a tiny bit of green. I want like it to like almost cover the whole screen. So when it starts to cover the whole screen like this, I'm just going to trim it, delete the first part, and then I'll position it right at the start. Then I'm just going to highlight these two shape layers for the sign, and I'm just going to pre-compose them, and I'll just name it circle. And this means that now I can change the matte of the overlay to circle, and now it will be applied over the thing. And as you can see now, there's like a glitch over the actual no entry sign, but I want it to move a lot slower, and I don't want any of the parts when it goes dark again. I just want a continuous glitch. So I'll find the point where the glitch like turns to black, and I'll just trim it. Then I'll right click, go to time, then time stretch, and I'll change the stretch factor to 300. So now the glitch won't be so fast. And then I'm going to search up in the effects and presets tint, and I'm going to add this onto that. And I'm just going to map black to this blue color like this. And as you can see now, it's blue instead of green. But actually I'm going to trim it a bit more to the start like this, because there is that dark point at the start. And as you can see now, we have this. And what I'm going to do is now, because I want it to carry on longer, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate it, and I'll move the new one over here. Then I'll just change the time to time reverse layer, so then it's not just a complete repetition. Then I'm going to duplicate this layer, and I'll move this one over here as well. Then I'll highlight all three of these layers, and I'll duplicate all three of them, and then move them all the way over to the right. And as you can see now, this goes on for like 5 seconds, but I want it to go along for even longer because there is this glitch effect in the entire thing. So I'm going to highlight all of these layers, I'm going to duplicate them, and then I'm going to move them over to the right as well. And just in case we want it to go for longer, I'm just going to highlight them again, and I'll just duplicate all of these again as well. Even though it definitely doesn't need to be this long, I'm just going to make it this long just in case. Now I'm happy with that glitch effect. I'm just going to highlight all of these layers, like all of the overlay layers and also the circle, and I'm going to pre-compose that. I'll just name it Blue X, and this is the like all of the layers for the sign are now together. And now I'm just going to type up data harvesting, and I'm just going to change the font to Arial Bold. I'm just going to scale down the text, and I'm just going to position it in the middle like so. And I'm just going to position it below the blue X as well, so now the text is underneath the sign like it was in the original video. I'm then going to search up in the effects and presets drop shadow, and I'm going to add this drop shadow effect onto the text. Then I'm just going to play around with the settings. So I'm just going to increase the distance and softness by a bit. And then I'm going to copy this with Command C or Control C, and I'm going to paste it onto the sign. And now I'm happy with that. I'm just going to copy these two layers. I'm going to duplicate them with Command D, and I'm just going to move these layers up to the top, and I'll just move it over to the right. So now it is over the second picture. I'm going to change the text though to toxic aspects of social media. I'll make it so and then the text is aligned, and then I'll position it in the center. And I'm also just going to space out the letters a bit like so, and then position it back in the middle. Now I'm just going to import the last two pictures that I need to do. So I'll start off with the first one, and it's this one of it like scrolling. In the original video they had videos, but this one I'm just going to use pictures because yeah, it's just easier to use pictures. So now I'm just going to scale it down, and I'm just going to position it where I want it to be. And actually I'm just going to quickly move down the Instagram logo so and then it's in the middle, and I'm going to move the picture over to the left. Now I'm just going to do the same thing with the second picture. So I'm going to change the scale so then it's the same size as the rest of the pictures. And I'm just going to position it here. And actually I'll move it to the right a bit as well. And actually I'm just going to move this like gray like solid up to the top. So now it's over all of the rest of the layers as well. I'm then just going to copy the drop shadow from the bottom 2 pictures and I'm going to paste it on the top 2 pictures as well. I'm just going to adjust the actual drop shadow a bit as well. For some reason, it looks a bit different on this picture. Now I'm going to create an adjustment layer, and this is where I'm going to actually like start animating things. Not really animating, I guess, but like, you know, if in the original video, how everything's like scaling in and the camera like perspective is changing. It goes from like one part, then it goes up, then it goes like zooms out, all that stuff. I'll start doing that now because right now I'm pretty much just creating a picture. So now I'm actually going to bring this picture to life. So for this adjustment layer, I'm going to search up in the effects and presets transform and I'll add that onto the adjustment layer. I'm going to increase the scale and I'm just going to drop down the position a bit. So now it's over these bottom 2 pictures. And now I'm going to keyframe the scale and position for this transform. Then I'm going to go forward by around a second or so and I'm just going to scale it in and position it so now it's like more focused on the right image. So I'll just move the position over to the right. And now I have 4 keyframes. I'll highlight these keyframes and I'll highlight the graph and move everything. So and then now there's a steep peak in the middle with both the position and scale graph. So now it should scale in more of a smooth way. I'm just going to space out the keyframes a bit as well. Then I'm going to go forward by around 2 seconds or so, maybe 3. And I'm just going to move it so and then the position is now like focused right in the middle of the screen, actually just slightly below the middle. And then I'm also just going to like scale out the perspective a bit. Then I'm going to go forward again and I'm just going to change the scale to 100 and I'll change the position to the original one, which is 960 by 540. So now you can see we're in the original perspective again. Now I'm going to highlight all of these keyframes and now I'm just going to start playing around with the graphs. So I'm going to highlight the position one for this middle bit and I'm just going to create a steep peak in the middle. I'll do the same thing with the scale. So and then there's a steep peak in the middle. So as you can see now it scales in, then scales out in quite a smooth way. Then I'll change this last graph here, this third one, and I'll just make it so again there's a steep peak in the middle. And as you can see now, this one scales out like smoothly like so. But actually I'm going to make the graph in the middle just a bit less steep. So I'll do that for both of the position and the scale. So now it comes out in less of a dramatic way. Now I'm actually going to like make it so then the different pictures come in at different points because right now all 4 of them are on there. And if you go to the original video, you'll see that each one like glitches in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create that glitch effect. I'm not going to use the same glitch effect that he used, like Moon, because of the fact that it's just, he did it in a way that like, basically he used an overlay and I've looked all over YouTube and I can't really find a similar overlay for free. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my own glitch effect and I personally think the glitch effect which I'm going to create is going to be a lot better than the one he used. So I'm just going to create my own. And to do that, I'm going to create a new solid and I'll name it glitch. I'll position it at the bottom and then I'm going to search up in the effects and presets turbulent noise. And I'll add this onto the solid. I'm going to change the noise type to block and I'm going to open up the transform and I will open up the scale as well and I'll uncheck the uniform scaling so we can actually change the scale of it. And actually I need to have this above all the layers so I can actually see it, then I'll move it back down after. So I'll move it up to the top again and I'm just going to change the scale width and height until it looks like a glitch. So I'll make the first one 3000 and the second one like 175, and as you can see we now have this glitch. But I'm going to keyframe the evolution at the start, then I'm going to go forward by around maybe 2 seconds and I'll make the first one 50x. So now as you can see there's this really quick glitch effect. Then I'm going to move it back to the bottom like it should be. Then I'm going to go to the point where I want the actual picture to glitch in, and then I'm going to now rearrange all of the layers. So now all of the layers associated with that are now together. So I'm going to get the actual blue X, the picture and the text, and I'm going to put them all together. Then when they're all together, I'm going to highlight them, I'm going to press pre-compose, and I'm going to name the pre-composition social media. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the box next to it. So I'm just going to find the layers associated with the data harvesting one. So the text, the blue X, and the picture, and I'm going to name it data. Then I'm just going to make the social media one start when I want it to start. So now it will actually like come in around 1 second in. And now to actually apply the glitch onto that layer, I'm going to search up displacement map. And I'm going to add that onto the actual social media pre-composition. I'm going to change the displacement map layer to 10 glitch, the source to effects and masks, the first one to luminance, the second one to luminance, and the third one to tile map. But basically just do exactly what I just did. I'm going to keyframe the max vertical and max horizontal at the start, or when I want it to come in, and I'll just increase the max vertical and horizontal, and now you can see the glitch is actually being applied onto the picture. And right now I'll just keep going on and on. So I'm then going to go forward by around half a second or so, and I'll change the amounts to 0. I'm just going to make the keyframes closer together though, so it's not so long. And I'm going to go to the start, I'll keyframe the opacity at 0% at the start. Then I'll go forward by like a few frames, and then I'll make the opacity 100%. So now it comes in like this. And as you can see, it's not the same one he used, but I quite like the one I've just created, so I'll stick with it. And I've just realized at the start that the actual like camera of where it's positioned at the start is like way below what it is for me. So if you go back to the original video, you can see when this bit starts that the data harvesting picture and everything is like at the top right. And the way I've done it is I've positioned it so, and then the camera is looking at it, so, and then it's at the bottom right and the bottom left. And I don't want it to be like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm now just going to move the camera perspective down so that now the data harvesting picture is at the top instead of the bottom. As you can see now, there's this massive amount of space where it's black, but I'll fix that in a sec. So I'll go to the second keyframe and I'll also move it down, so then it's at the top as well. So as you can see now, it's exactly how it should be, but there's this massive like black bar at the bottom. So to fix that, I'm going to highlight the background layer and the like grid adjustment layer, and I'm going to pre-compose them. I'll just name it BG, and then I will scale that up. But the problem is that just makes the whole grid a lot bigger. And when I play that back, even though the whole thing is fixed, when I play that back, as you can see, the grid is like a lot more scaled in than it should be. So to fix that and make it back to what it was, I'll double click on the background composition, and I'm just going to decrease the width to 100 and the height to 100 as well. Actually, I'll change the width and height to 90. And when I go back, as you can see now, it's back to what it originally was. But I'm just going to adjust the graph a bit as well. So, and then the final movement is like just starts a bit sooner. And now I'm happy with that. I'm going to make the actual Instagram logo like come in, because as you can see in the original video, it like rotates in. So I'm going to keyframe the rotation when I want it to start coming in. And then I'm going to go forward by around half a second, and I'll add another rotation keyframe. I'll go back to the original one and I'll just make it so, and then it's around -50 or something. And I'll also keyframe the position. Then I'll add another position keyframe at the other rotation keyframe. I'll go back to the original position keyframe and I'll just move it so, and then it's out of the screen. And then I'm going to highlight these keyframes. I'll press F9. I'll go into the graph editor. And with the graph editor, I'm just going to make it so there's a steep peak at the start. And as you can see now, it comes in like it did in the original video. And now I'm going to create the same thing I did with the other picture, like the glitch transition. I'm going to now do that with the top two pictures as well. So I'm going to find the point where I want the like the top left picture to come in, which is around 5 seconds in. And I'm just going to make it start then. Then I'm going to go back to the social media composition. I'll copy the displacement map effect and I'll paste that onto the new one. And I'm also just going to duplicate this glitch solid. And I'm going to rename that to glitch 2 so we don't get confused. And then I can then map this to glitch 2 instead of glitch 1. And then I can also just move the glitch so, and then it starts like basically at the same point. As you can see now, the glitch will be applied. And if I play that back, as you can see, the same thing's applied. But the thing is, the glitch just isn't as like intense because we've zoomed out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to increase the actual the intensity of the glitch. So I'm just going to increase the max horizontal and max vertical. So now it's more intense. But I'm also just going to keyframe the opacity at 0% at the start like I did for the other one. I'll go forward a bit and I'll make it 100%. And as you can see now, we have 2 glitch transitions. And I'll do the same thing with the top right image. So I'll go to the point where I want that to come in, and then I'll move it so, and then it starts there. Then I'll copy the displacement map effect from the one below it, and then I'll apply it onto this one. I don't need to make a new glitch one though, because these ones start at the same point, so it'll basically the same. We can use the same glitch layer, I guess. So we don't need to map it. We'll keep it to glitch 2. But then I also need to keyframe the opacity at 0% at the start. Then I'll go forward. I'll make it 100% like I did for the other one. And as I play this back, as you can see, we now have the 2 pictures transitioning in with the glitch. Then I'm going to get the text and I'm going to type up photo sharing. I'll scale it down and position it in the middle. Then I'm going to go into the data like composition, and I'll just copy the drop shadow from that, and then I'll copy it and paste it onto the photo sharing one. Then I'm going to duplicate that text layer and I'll apply it onto the other one, the picture next to it, but I'll change the text, so and then it says photography instead. Then I'm going to move the text next to the picture that it applies to, and I'm just going to make it so and then it starts when the actual picture starts as well, so the photography text comes in with the picture comes in. But I've also just realized that the glitch only applies onto the picture and it doesn't apply onto the text, and that's not how it was in the original video. So as you can see, the text comes in, but the actual picture doesn't, because it still needs to transition in, but we need everything to transition in together. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete these keyframes, these opacity keyframes, and I'm also going to delete the displacement map effect from both of these pictures. And then I'm just going to highlight the photography text and the picture for the photography, and I'll pre-compose it. I'll just name it photography. Then I'll just trim it with Command-Shift-D when I want it to start. Then I'll do the same thing with the photo sharing one. And then I'll just trim it as well. And now I'm just going to do exactly what I did earlier, but I'll do it for now this composition instead of just the picture. So I'll add the displacement map effect and I'll do exactly what I did earlier, so you can go and do that again. And now, as you can see, there is the glitch which gets applied onto the composition, which means that the whole thing transitions in together, the text and the picture. So now we're back to where we should be. And now I'm actually going to add the actual text effect that you can see at the end, where it goes from 5 million to 10 million. And to do this, I'm going to get the text tool, and I'm just going to type up 10 million, so 10,000,000. And I'm just going to scale it up, and I'm going to stretch the text a bit as well. So, and then the zeros are more square, I guess, like it was in the original video. But I'm also just going to change the font to Montserrat semi-bold. I'm just going to stretch the text a bit more actually, and I'll just align the whole thing in the center. And then I'll search up in the effects and presets drop shadow, and I'm going to add a drop shadow onto this 10 million text. So I'll just increase the distance and softness, and I'll just change the direction to around 200. And I'm also just going to increase the opacity of this as well, and this is what we've got so far. I'm going to position this text so and then it starts when I want it to start, and I'm going to add the point control effect onto this, and this is how I'm going to actually animate this text. So this is a bit tricky, but you can just follow along. It's not too bad though when you actually understand it. It's just when you haven't done this stuff before, it can be a bit daunting. So just follow along if you can. So I'm going to open up this arrow, and I'm going to open up the text one. I'm going to alt click on the source text, and it will open up this bit of code, and then just type exactly what I type in. So I'm going to type up NUM space equals space double commas space plus space math.round, and then I'm going to press enter. So and then there's these double brackets, and then in between these brackets, when I've got my actual I guess cursor, I'm then going to pick whip this source text up to the point control. So now I will paste this in between the actual brackets, and then at the end, in between these two brackets, I'm just going to create these two square, I don't know what the sign is for this, but this sign, I don't know what it's called. I think they're called square brackets, and in between these square brackets, I'm going to put 0. Then I haven't created this bit of code, but it's quite a complicated bit of code that I got from YouTube, and this basically allows you to, it'll basically add the commas. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press enter at the end to create a second line, and I'm going to type up num, then I'm going to paste the bit of code, and as you can see, it's this quite complicated bit of code, and I'll have the link to this in the description below. And then I'll click off it, and if you've done it right, it should say 960. So if you've done it right, the number will change to 960, and if you haven't done it right, it will say a warning, I guess, a code done wrong or whatever the warning is. I think it's wrong expression, and it will say the number that you typed in, which for me was 10 million. So I've done it right because it says 960, and this means that this number is now correlated with the position of the point control. So as you can see in the number, it says 960, 540. It will be correlated with that 960. So when you change the 960, it will change the actual number. And this means we can now animate it. So if we keyframe the point at 5 million at the start of when we want it to come in, then I'm just going to align it in the center. And if we go forward by around 1, 2, 3, 3 seconds, I'm just going to change this number to 10 million now. So it'll go from 5 to 10 million. So if I highlight these keyframes, I'm then going to go into the graph editor, and I'm just going to create a very steep peak at the start, as steep as it can be, by moving the two paddles over to the left. So then it will start off really fast, going from 5 to 7 million, literally like half a second, and then it will slow down, like it did in the original video. And now I'm just going to actually animate this so then it creates that like wave transition that was in the original video. And to do this, I could make it myself, but to save a lot of time, I'm just going to use Animation Composer 3, which is a free extension by Mr. Horse. I'm not affiliated with this company. It's very useful for creating pre-made effects like this. You can download it for free, just search up on YouTube. I'm not going to link it because I'm not affiliated with them, but you can find it on Google somewhere. So I'm going to go to Window, open up Animation Composer 3, and then I'm just going to go to Starter Presets, Transitions Text Layer, and I'm going to add the Overshoot, Position, Rotate, and Scale Characters effect. I'll animate in. As you can see, it now comes in like it did in the original video. I think this is literally the exact thing that the editor for that original video used, because I'm pretty sure it's the same like transition. And I'm going to go to the point where it goes to 10 million, the exact like frame, and I'm going to cut it, and I'm just going to align the 10 million in the middle, because the 10 million number is a bit bigger than the 9876 million. So it'll go, the 9 million number will be centered, and then the 10 million number will be centered as well. And then as you can see, it's pretty much like it was in the original video. If you go back to the original video, you'll see that it gets a bit blurry when the numbers start to come up. So to create that, I'm going to create a new adjustment layer. I'm going to position it so it's below the 10 million, so the 10 million doesn't get blurry. I'll rename it to blur so I don't get confused. And I'm going to search up in the effects and presets fast box blur, and I'll add this onto that adjustment layer. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keyframe the blur like when I want it to start. And then I'm going to go forward by around half a second, and I'll make it like 3. So if I play that back, it will get blurry as the text comes up. And now I'm going to create the final like perspective zoom, and that start when the text comes in and it ends just after the text, and it has that like that zoom in effect. So I'm going to keyframe the position and scale when I want it to start, which is around like 8 seconds in. Then I'm going to go forward to when I want it to end, which is just after the 10 million. And then I'm just going to scale it in. So, and then it's like this. And I'll just change the position. So, and then the 10 million text is in the middle. And I've also just realized that I haven't actually moved this like black overlay that makes everything just a bit darker. So I'm just going to move that up to the top. And I'm actually just going to make it darker because I realized in the original video that it was like the whole background was a bit darker. So I'm going to make it a bit darker, and I'll increase the opacity to like 9%. But I'm also just going to position this below the actual 10 million text. So, and then the 10 million text isn't dark at all. Then I'm actually going to edit this graph for the final like position and scale keyframes. So I'll just highlight them, and I'll create a steep peak in the middle like we did for the other ones. So if I play this back, as you can see, it scales in like this. I'm actually going to delete this keyframe because I realized that there is no gap. Like I created a little gap between the actual keyframes, so I'm going to delete this one. I'll go back into the graph editor and I'll just edit the graph. So, and then like this final bit is now like it was earlier. So the steep peak in the middle. So as you can see, now it scales out and then instantly scales back in when the scaling out finishes. Now, pretty much the last thing I have to do is actually create that text, which comes just underneath the actual 10 million. So I'm going to go up to the text tool and I'm going to type up "in just 10 months" in the Montserrat semi-bold font. I'm going to put that below the adjustment layer. I'm going to scale it up and I'm going to position it so and then it's in the middle, but then a bit below like this. Then I'm going to copy the drop shadow from the 10 million and I'll paste it onto this text, but I'll change the amount. I'll just decrease the distance and decrease the softness a bit as well. And I'll make it start when I want it to start. And I'm going to add another transition from Animation Composer 3. This one isn't like the same one as the one he used, but it's pretty similar. So I'm going to go to Starter Presets and I'm going to add fade characters together, and I'll go from start. And then I'll apply it onto the start like this. So now the text comes in like this. I'll space out the marker like this. And now we've done that, this is the finished edit. Now I'm looking back at it, not everything was the same. There's a few things which I definitely could have made more similar. Like I didn't use videos instead of pictures. I guess my glitch was slightly different. And the main thing is, I guess the background is slightly different. His one just looks a bit more different than mine for some reason. But I think I've done a pretty good job of like almost recreating this without actually having the same assets he did. And again, there is a link to the assets that I used for this. So if you want, you can follow along with what I've done if you haven't already done it already. And just a quick reminder about Skillcut. If you are a beginner or intermediate video editor looking to level up and edit like a professional as soon as possible, then I would highly recommend that you check out Skillcut through the top link in the description below.